Well, hello and welcome back. Coffee with Carl, number 41. It's been a while, and I apologize. I had every intention to make one of these videos when I was in Montana. And, you know, it's not that there wasn't an opportunity or two. It's just that there were times where other things were more important. So I certainly could have set up this camera and shot and stuff like that, but my family was up there. And it was an amazing experience. And early mornings, my daughter wakes up very early too, so she would come up with me, and we would hang out for the morning and, you know, go look at the creek and stuff. It was just a lot of fun. And I really didn't want to miss out on any of that. You know, if it was just me, then maybe I would have taken the time to make an upload. But the other thing is that service around there was very spotty, so I probably would have had to make the video and then go somewhere to upload it and forget about the links and everything like that. So I just kind of said, all right, look, this is just this is a lot of roadblocks, and I think I'm just going to wait until I get back. So I do apologize for the absence. However, I don't regret it. We had a great time. It was an amazing state. I've never been to Montana before. I had been to Wyoming. We actually crossed over into Wyoming for a little bit, but never to Montana. And it was just so different than Connecticut, where I live. It was enlightening, you know? I mean, I love seeing the way that different people live and you know, the way that different, even within our country, which is a big country, the way that different people go about their day-to-day business. But anyway, the first thing I wanted to talk about today was actually an issue that happened with the heat straps / Nick's Ranchman jacket. I'm not sure if you saw this, but something happened. So they made a rough out work jacket, looked great, and it was made by Heat Straps, but I think sold by Nick's, if I remember correctly. And there was a collar issue where it was basically misaligned. And you could see where this could happen when you look at the pattern and when you see the pictures where the placket is open. It doesn't look like anything's wrong. However, if you you kind of do up the top button, it's very clear that the collar is shifted. And it was like, oh boy, that's not something you would notice unless you really did it up, because like I said, if you had it open, it looks normal. And actually, I was actually pretty impressed with the way that the guys from Heat Straps handled it. They, number one, offered to repair they repaired all the ones that were in stock that hadn't been sold yet or shipped out. And then if you wanted yours repaired, they would pay to send it back, fix it, and then ship it back to you, and offer a 10% coupon, which I thought was pretty cool. I mean, you really can't ask a company to do more than that, right? They made good on their mistake, and they also offered you something in compensation. So, you know, I give them a lot of credit because they tackled that head on, which was really cool. And we all make mistakes. You know what I mean? There's been plenty of times that I've made mistakes on this channel here and daily in my regular life. And I think most people recognize that, right? But it's not necessarily how you react to the wins in your life. It's how you react to the mistakes that you make. And in my opinion, this was actually, while it may have cost them a pretty penny to do that stuff and then offer that 10% and stuff off, I think that in actual fact, it probably will be better for them in the long term, because it shows that they stand behind their product and that they'll do what's necessary to make the customer happy. So while I'm sure some people were inconvenienced, it's going to be made right. And then like they offer, you know, 10% on top of that. And when you're talking about some of these products, you know, I've done a couple with Heat Straps and none of them are cheap. 10% can be, you know, quite a bit. So I think that's pretty cool. So anyway, that happened, and I'm glad that they did what they did. Now, a number of interesting things came out over the last 2 weeks, and I have some of my favorite here. Of course, this is by no means all of them. The first one that I wanted to talk about is the Carhartt. Basically, it's not the replacement for the B01, but it's sort of a reimagining of the B01. And what's interesting is I thought that this was going to be under the Carhartt Icons Reengineered moniker, but it's not. They just kind of rolled it out, and that was it. So I almost, again, don't think that this is really falling into that bucket either, where they had a special version of the Detroit jacket before, right? Under the Icons Reimagined or Reengineered or whatever they call it. This is actually, I think, just going to be a whole separate model. And I actually got a pair of these before they went on sale. And so I have some real world experience in them, and I actually really like them. Now, this is made out of the same 12-ounce duck that Carhartt is known for, with one exception. It is 99% cotton and 1% spandex or elastane, one of the two. Basically, it has a tiny bit of stretch. When you pick these up, it's not like like the 1620 shop pants. It's like, oh, whoa, this thing's like a bouncy ball. But it's not. These are actually bouncy ball. I guess that'd be more like a balloon or something, like really stretchy. But these are actually a little bit more rigid. They do have a little bit of give, which is nice because the original Rigid Duck B01s, they sort of were a dated product. Now, those things dominated my work pant shootout. Number one, really affordable. I think they were like 50 or 60 bucks. Made in the USA. They were far and above the strongest pair of pants that I tested there. I mean, it was like 300 something pounds before they tore. So obviously they're being made very well. They've had a long time to get it right too. So let's just be fair there. But I thought when it comes to value, build quality, and strength, the B01s are hard to beat. But they do have some issues. They're high-waisted, which is a very old fit, and not a lot of people actually want to wear their stuff like that. They more or less want like a mid-rise or a little bit lower rise than the high rise sort of jeans and pants that we were used to way back in the day. So I think that this is actually a very welcome interpretation of the B01. A little bit of stretch, a lower rise, and they also put in a few hidden pockets. So there's a zipper pocket, which actually goes behind the double knee on the right hand side. There's like a little spot for a pencil, which actually uses that double knee fabric as part of the pocket bag on the left. And just a few other little surprises that I think are really, really cool. And the colors that they offer it in are also very interesting. I was told that the lighter version is simply undyed duck canvas, which is really cool. They almost kind of look like this. These are the Kato brand. I think they're called the Hammer. Right? They're straight fit. And I like these a lot. But they remind me a lot of these, only heavier. So, yeah, those are available. And I got to say, they're really, really good. I think these could be a great replacement for people who maybe are feeling that their B01s are a little bit dated or something like that. Now, I don't think this is made in the USA the way the B01s are, so keep that in mind if you were to try these out. But yeah, Carhartt's doing some interesting stuff. Here is something rather interesting, and I don't know why I picked this out. But let me just preface this by saying that I love Valet trays. I have probably 4 of them. And I know I have one on my desk at work. I have one here on my nightstand. I have one by the door. I have one on my desk here. They just act as a really good way to sort of look like you're organized by capturing all the junk that you don't want just strewn about your surface. So they work well for keys, for all that stuff. And they keep it somewhat organized. So we look like we're somewhat civilized, right? Rather than just, throwing your stuff across the table or whatever. Now, I found this one. This actually looks like one of the better Valet trays I've ever seen. I have a Filson one, which is no more than basically some of their rigid, what do they call that? Rugged twill with some snaps on the corners, so it kind of makes a little basket. And my other ones are nowhere near as nice as this. This is from a company called Leander. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. This is their black leather Valet tray, and it looks like they actually use all natural materials here. So it doesn't say exactly what they're using for this model here. It says that our wood species includes the likes of American black walnut and maple. So those are 2 great options right there. I would take the American black walnut for sure. That says genuine leather. Our leathers come from some of the finest tanneries in the world, including La Perla Azzurra and Badalassi from the Tuscany region of Italy. So, Badalassi Carlo is still one of my favorite leathers. So they're using some really nice stuff here, and it looks like you can get them in a couple of different configurations, but this is a nice Valet tray, which would look really good on like a buttoned up desk or someplace where other people are going to see it. Or even if you just like want one because you like it, hey, that's fine too. And, it's not cheap. It's 145 bucks, but, this is something that unless you want to get a router and try to make this thing yourself, it's going to be kind of difficult. But I think they did a really nice job with this. It looks really nice, and I'm trying not to buy another Valet tray because I don't need it, and I think that that's going to be hard to hide from the wife. Now, I have spoken about Left Field before. Left Field, New York City. I actually was first turned on to them by Gabbard over at Creosote because he did a collaboration with that guy. I think they were called the Black Dahlia boots or something like that. They were really cool looking. And he goes, yeah, this guy is, kind of old school. You get along with him great. He's sort of, Gibbard and I are kind of like cut from the same cloth. We're actually sort of just these crikey old dudes, I guess. And, you know, there comes to be almost a personality type that you begin identifying in other people that sort of clues you into a bit of who they are. And what I mean is, like, they may not be like the most friendly people or the most, you know, socially fun or whatever, but they're the guys that you would probably trust to watch your house for a week while you went away. They're the guys that you could rely on in a snowstorm. If a tree fell, you know, they'd be over there helping you out. But you know, that sometimes they could be a bit of a prickly character. And I'm not saying that I'm that way, but I think that maybe I'm becoming that way. And I think, you know, I identify with people who are that way. So this guy was supposed to be really cool. I never got a chance to go over to Left Field, but I'm always perusing his website and checking things out. I always liked the stuff that he did, and I'm just waiting for the right opportunity to get something for myself. I don't have anything from Left Field yet, but this one actually really piqued my interest because it's on sale and it's a great deal as long as the fit is right, and it actually looks pretty good. So I'm going to try to not butcher this. This is the Innismore Pasture Kerry Woolen Mills Ireland Wool Dust Bowl Work Shirt. Holy moly. Well, talk about a title on that. That's almost as bad as Carhartt's words. But anyway, it's $179. It's on sale because it's marked down from $320. So, and what's interesting too is almost all the sizes are still available. So a lot of times when you see stuff like this and it's marked way down, that's because they only have like small and extra small remaining, and you're like, oh great, well they might as well even have it. But in a case like this, they have small, medium, large, and XL in stock, and you have this wool work shirt, which looks really good. So, you know, I gotta tell you, like, when I see stuff like that, occasionally it makes me go, ooh, I should let people know about this, because that's basically, you know, almost half price for a wool shirt. So wool, you're going to have it forever, and all of the great properties that wool comes with. I think that if you were looking for something like this, and, you know, wool flannels and stuff like that are not really like, they're nowhere near as popular as cotton, that this may be a great way to get into something like this. And at almost half price, that's a swish as far as I'm concerned. I want to thank Chatsworth Brompton for this next one, because he was the one who let me know about it. Stormy Kromer has always been, I think, the most comparable alternative to Filson out there. However, they are not without their problems. I've heard things about Stormy Kromer, that their wool is really scratchy, that it's, you know, it has a high concentration of other materials. It's not 100% wool. However, I've never actually felt a Stormy Kromer product for myself, with one exception, and that is a bandana that I have. It's like an insulated bandana that goes around back, and it keeps your mouth and your chin and everything warm. I had to wear that on the railroad at night a lot of times, because I'd be standing there and my body would be warm, my legs, my hands, and everything like that, but my face would be just freezing, and I was so cold that I couldn't even really talk, because like all of your mouth and your lips are all like frozen. So I got this thing, and occasionally I'd put it up and I'd get nice and warm. The only problem is like ice crystals form on the outside of it because of your breath. And I gotta say that Stormy Kromer piece was really good. We're not talking about that today, though. We're talking about something completely different. And they have done their double Mackinac coat in American woolen wool. And now this ranges from $500 to $510, so it's still cheaper than the regular Mackinac Cruiser. If you remember, Filson just upped the price of that yet again to $550. So this is still cheaper than the single Mackinac from Filson, and it's using American woolen wool. Now, American Woolen is here in Connecticut, and they make the wool for weather wool. They make the wool for heat straps, and evidently, Stormy Kromer is using their wool as well. Now, these are all different grades of wool. When you go into a place like American Woolen, you're not just getting what they make. You know, you specify what it is that you want. So not all wools are created equal. However, they're a very respectable woolen mill, which is making a lot of great stuff for a lot of really interesting brands. So what we have here is, if you missed out on a Filson double Mackinac Cruiser and you always wanted one, this might be the closest that you're ever going to get without going secondhand. And I would argue that in many ways, this is actually better. Now, you have to like the layout. The layout's a little funny on this thing. You know, the way that the cape, the top section, which makes it a double Mackinac, comes down, is a little weird, a little different. I don't think it's necessarily bad. I'm sure it's very, very warm. But it's unique, and you have to be prepared for that. And their pattern is a little different. You know, I think that some people are really into it, but it's a great price for what looks like some at least decent wool. And as long as you're okay with that pocket layout and that pattern, you could be getting yourself a smoking deal here. Now, here's one. Devium has become one of those brands that I'm always checking on. I really like their stuff. Matter of fact, I just ordered one of their wax jackets for a big wax jacket comparison that I'm doing. And I bought one of theirs, one of Free Notes, one from, who was that? Tom Beckby. I have a Filson. I have, of course, the heat straps ones. I have a few others, and I'm going to do a big comparison of waxed jackets. I think that'd be fun to see and compare and contrast the different price points and what you're actually getting. For example, that Free Note is very, very expensive, but are you getting your money's worth, right? And I've actually got to say that the Devium one that I got, their wax jacket is really cool. So, you know, it'll be a fun video to make. Looking forward to that. But I'm always checking out their website. Now, what I love is that they're 100% American made. Of course, that means that their products aren't cheap. But the one that struck me this week was their Bodega striped long sleeve shirt. Now, at first glance, you could look at this and say, yeah, that's like a dress shirt. Like, yeah, I could see, like, okay, whatever. That's nothing special. There's a few things that are interesting about it, though. Number one, I'm actually surprised with the button choice that they went with. So most companies would go with like a cream or a white button for something like this. They went with like a dark brown. So the buttons contrast the shell material or the cloth material. So the buttons actually contrast the color, which is interesting because most of the time you don't see that. Oftentimes they'll blend in. But the other thing is, I was looking at this and I'm like, you know, that's actually a great way to get what could be your, you know, dressy shirt, right? Now, I'm not saying you necessarily would wear this to a wedding or a funeral, but almost anything else, date night, or whatever it is, anytime you just want to look like a little buttoned up, this looks like a really good kind of compromise between what we like with the heritage world and workwear and kind of the dressed up world. And most of the time I found that, you know, I have a few dress shirts. Occasionally when I have to go into the office, we actually have to wear like a shirt and tie and the whole thing. And most of them I hate because they're just like, they don't fit well. They're usually pretty flimsy. I like Leadberry for my dress shirts. And even those, they're thin and I don't like it. I like the feeling of a good substantial shirt. And this looks like a really nice one. So I don't know, man. They're just really, really cool. Interesting company. Again, one I'm looking at a lot. And $158, you can get this. And I think that this could be like, if you needed one great dress shirt, one great kind of, you know, shirt that looked like it was somewhat put together, the Bodega might be a good one. Now, to complete the outfit, and I know I totally didn't put this together thinking of an outfit. Believe me, I did not. But I saw this over on Weis Made, and I was like, boy, if you were to layer that over that Devium shirt, now we're talking. I mean, now you have like the ultimate heritage, whatever, office worker or something like that, because you have two products that are made in the USA that have their roots in workwear and are very unique. However, to the untrained eye, you could look like you're really, really put together and nobody would know the difference. And that's kind of, to me, that's better than just going to like JC Penney and getting some lame blazer and putting it over some, you know, cheap poplin shirt. At least give me something with some character and some, you know, quality. I'll take that any day. So anyway, from Weis Made, this is called the Scout Blazer. It's $328, and yeah, I know, that's a lot of money. I also thought that Scout was like the best name for a dog ever. I mean, that's just perfect, isn't it? I mean, you'd have to have something like a Cocker Spaniel or something like that, right? That like actually, or like maybe like a lab. I don't know. Anyway, has to be like a Scout dog, right? A dog that could actually go out there and do some stuff. But basically what we have here is a denim blazer, which is... it's a blazer, but it's also kind of a chore coat, right? Like when I look at this, the first thing I think is chore coat because I see those big hand pockets. They are patch pockets, so they're not like sewn into it, but they also have things like the contrasting color for the buttonholes, They have double elbows to them, which again says workwear, and it's totally unlined, but it sort of comes down so you have like a nice lapel that kind of folds back if the top's not buttoned. And when I saw this, now, number one, I think they made a little bit of a mistake. I got to tell you that right off the bat. They have it, the model they have wearing it is wearing like a hoodie beneath it, which doesn't give me a good feel for the way that this thing would drape over a shirt like the one I just mentioned. I have the feeling, though, that if you were able to get this in the right size, because it looks like it's relatively unfitted, and that's what I mean, like, why would you show this over a hoodie? I wish they wouldn't. I want to know how slim this is. But if you can get your sizing right, and then you put that over that striped shirt, this could look really, really good. Or if simply what you're looking for is an unlined denim jacket that doesn't look like a bomber or something that's a little like, something that's a little more dressed up, right? Less casual. This is the best I've ever seen. And I gotta say, it looks really, really good in some of these photos, especially where it's a little bit washed or a little bit worn at the edges. Looks dynamite. It almost looks like it has, and I can't see it here, almost looks like it has a half belt rear to it. And I can't find any, there's one good picture of the back. And yeah, it almost looks like it has a half belt, which is a very interesting detail. There's also a split hem at the back, so a little notch taken out of the hem, which is a pretty cool choice. I don't know, they did some really nice stuff here. I gotta tell you, this was one that really definitely piqued my interest. So they're using a 14-ounce broken twill denim from Mount Vernon Mills in Georgia. Flat-filled seams to give it extra strength, functional buttons at the cuff, double-layered elbow patches, and their signature tobacco keyholes. I didn't know that was a Weis-made signature thing, but very cool. Finished with clean seam armholes, and our buttons made in Connecticut. Hey, all right, see? Connecticut, man. A lot of people sourcing their stuff from here. Actually, a lot of places are getting their stuff, and these buttons were probably from Rome Fastener in Milford. I know that they give basically a lot of places that will order snaps with the embossing on them. They're coming from Connecticut, from Rome Fastener, so I bet you that's where these come from. But I was very impressed by this piece, and I just wish that maybe they had layered it a little bit differently. In some of these photos, it's very difficult to tell how it fits. However, I think this could be dynamite if worn correctly, sized properly. You could really do something pretty good with this. Well, guys, it's great to be back. I'm really glad to be back in the swing of things. As nice as it is to take time off and do things, to me, it's equally as nice to come back and get back into your routine. We are certainly creatures of habit, at least around here, and I think most people are. And I like to be able to know what I'm doing from day to day and have a system. Like I really missed working out. I try to work out every day. And I mean, that's not to say like, I'm going to go run a triathlon or, a decathlon or anything like that. I'm not going to, go and do anything like that. But I really like to just keep moving. And I certainly missed my gym. And, I like being here. I think it was a conscious effort when we started making this house our own to make home a place that you wanted to be, so that when you went on vacation, you were happy to come back. And I've lived in a number of places where I certainly would have rather stayed away, but that was one thing that we wanted to make this home into. And I mean, I love it. I really do. Our house is great. Our neighbors are, well, one is kind of questionable, but the other one's pretty cool. And I love it up here, and I love being able to do this and talk to you guys. So I'm really happy to be back. We had a great time. I certainly will go back to Montana, a beautiful state. But, we're going into an interesting season now, which is the reason that Connecticut and New England have the reputation they do at fall. It just turns into a kaleidoscope of color when these leaves start turning. And it is something to see. If you've never been up here during the fall, it's just incredible. And it's funny because, I've lived up in New England my entire life. So I feel that sometimes I'm a little bit jaded. Like I almost kind of don't appreciate it, and I'm driving through and there's these crazy vibrant yellows and reds and oranges and stuff. And like, I'm not even seeing it anymore. I'm just driving to work. You know what I mean? But every now and then I try to stop and go, man, that is beautiful. Look at this, or occasionally you'll get a tree, which is green on the bottom. And then it does this gradient from, you know, yellow to orange to red to whatever. I mean, it's like you have all these colors in one tree. And if you can find a nice road to drive down while that's all happening, I mean, it's like, it's magical. It really is. So I love this time of year. We plan on going up to Salem, Massachusetts with the kids this year. I've never been. I've always wanted to go, and it's not that far. So I don't know what I've been waiting for, but, you know, here we are 43 years later, and I'll finally make it up there. But that's okay, you know? I mean, it's all about experiences. So really looking forward to the season coming up. And, you know, as things drop now, because we're getting more into the cooler season, we're going to see some really interesting stuff. And that's actually what we'll talk about with the patrons only section that we're going to get into now, because I want to tell you a little bit more about the release schedule that I have coming up, the products that are coming out, and a little more details about the nuts and bolts of what they are. So stick around. We're going to get to that. But to the rest of you, thank you so much for sticking with me. It's great to be back. It's great to see you, talk to you virtually. I always love, you know, talk with you guys down in the comments. So I'm looking forward to that. And I'll see you guys next week. Promise.